Hi, hey everybody. I'm Shake. This is my YouTube channel. I am now a DJ just over the last, 5 months. But I've been drumming in duos, trios, bands for 20 years, doing gigs, weddings, parties, and so on. But now, as of last year, I've just been going solo, meaning I can pick the songs I like. I have to sing. If I suck, there's no one to blame but me. But today's video, I just wanted to talk about when it comes to new DJs or new soloists. A lot of the time people get a cheaper set just so they can get a matching pair. I still argue that if you go column speaker, you only need one set as opposed to having a pair because of the wider dispersion. And when it comes to setup and pack up, time means so much. And if you can reduce your setup time from 45 minutes down to 15 to 20, then it's going to make your gig so much easier. So anyway, I thought what I'd do is I'd do like a role play. So when I was going solo, I already had to have a sub for the band that I was in, which I can go to here. So if we're just looking at subs under $1,000, just to imagine a starting soloist or a starting DJ, you're looking at alto, Behringer, and AVE. If we went with the beginner one, let's just go an alto 12-inch sub. So I've just got here 12-inch sub, 719. So I'm just gonna have the tally up in the corner, and then most of the time, if you're getting a point source speaker, they're going to be 90 degrees on the dispersion, which means you can't get away with one. That's the negative, and I've tried it. So the particular speaker I bought when I was going solo was I bought a Yamaha DBR10. These were $600 each. However, I found them secondhand or used for $250. So I'm just going to go two speakers, $599. So two brand new speakers is $1,200. A new sub is $720, and this is going budget. We could look at Behringer or Vonix. Vonix, I'm not happy with the sound. Behringer, I have bought many second-hand speakers, and the dials have been scratchy, not working. XLR inputs are dead. The sound's not as good. Yamaha, I feel like is that good middle ground. Okay, so our PA system for a DJ, we've got the two speakers for $1,200. You need 6 XLR cables because you've got to go from the speaker, from your mixer, 2 channels to your 2 subs, and then 2 cables going from your 2 speakers. So that should be 4 XLR cables. Sorry, that was referring to DJ. So DJ, you need your 2 XLR from your controller to your mixer, then you need 2 to your 2 subs, and then you need another 2 for your 2 speakers. That's why 6 XLR cables. Let's just say $20 each. That's $120. Then we are missing the mixer. So the negative with point source is generally you don't have enough control on the back of the speaker. You'll have 1 channel, maybe 2, maybe you'll have volume on the individually, and then if you spend more, you can get bass and treble, you can get reverb, so you can get small mixers on them. So let's just go, if we don't go for a cheap brand, I went Yamaha for the speakers, so let's try and avoid Behringer or Vonix when it comes to mixers. So the common one, ideally you want a mixer with reverb or an effect. So if we go here, 226 is your small mixer, Yamaha with effects. So as you can see here, if we total up 2 speakers, which is $1,200, you got $120 worth of cables, you got a $720 sub, and you have a mixer with effects. So it ends up being $2,265. So let's put that in, 2265. So basically for a minimal 2 speakers, a small sub, the cables, and a small mixer, just enough for like your DJ deck or your vocal and guitar, but at least you've got some reverb. So 2265. So then if we go, what if you want to go the column route, that'd be here. So let's have a look. If we keep our budget under 2265, let's see what we're looking at. You've got the DLXK. No, that's 1600. You've got there you go, Stage Pass. So 1900. So if you get one of these, you're going to get the wider dispersion. You're going to get similar volume. This goes to 125, as opposed to your DBR10 that goes to 129. Subwoofer, I don't actually know. I didn't buy this one. I did spend extra and get an EV at the time. Specs, max 130 dB. So that's heaps. So basically when you play live, you're going to hit the limiter well below 130. 130 is them in perfect conditions, soundproof room, white noise or pink noise. It's not actually music in a live venue. So from all the YouTube I've watched and just Googling and research and things like that, it seems to be 85 to 90% of your max SPL is your real world SPL limit without distorting. So for example, my Evolve 50 max SPL is 127 and I get around about 105. So 105 divided by 127, so it's about 82%. So basically when I look at speakers I'm looking at buying brand new or used, I Google their max SPL, I look at maybe 85%, and then I go, okay, that's its real world max. So if I'm doing a gig, most of the gigs that I've measured when I'm at a suitable volume, it ends up being around about 100 decibels. Meaning, the point being is you don't need a 135 max SPL speaker, because if I bought a speaker that's $2,000 and it goes to 136, let's look at 0.85. A 136 speaker, max SPL, real world, you're probably going to get 115 without hitting a limiter. So that means you're barely going to be stressing that speaker. I'm not saying you want to hit your speaker at 99% without distorting and that's what you run it for 4 hours, 3 nights a week. However, as long as 100 times 1.15, yeah, 115. So as long as the speaker's more than 115, it should be able to get to 100 without stressing the speaker out. To keep it safe, when I recommend speakers, when I aim for speakers myself as a soloist and a beginner DJ, I look at 125 is my minimum. And that means it'll do 100 with no problems, no straining of the speaker, no long-term damage. So if we go back to our little list here, the Yamaha StagePass 1K is a good option, 1800 brand new. However, when I bought mine, I got it for 1,000. So a musician had bought his, used it a handful of times, and decided that he wanted to sell it. So I got it for almost half price. So StagePass 1K, 1,000. So my point being is, I really think when you're looking at your buying brand new speakers, you look at what is good value and hits all of your criteria, and then look at the secondhand market. Just like a car, if a car is 50 grand brand new, it's probably going to be worth 48 after a month. So a demo, you can save yourself a couple of grand. After a year, maybe 10, 20,000 Ks, it's going to be down to 45. 5 years, it might be down to 30, 50,000, 30, yeah, 30, 35,000. So my car, for example, in the 5 years, it's gone down almost 20 grand in value. And then 10 years, it'll be less than half of its value. So a 50 grand car, it's going to be less than 25 after 10 years. Just as a general observation. My point being is the Yamaha StagePass 1K is still being sold brand new now. It is still in the current circulation of buying stock. So you can find one that's less than 5 years old. It's been used for a handful of gigs. Maybe the previous owner barely used it, or in this person's case, they found it was too heavy to carry around, so they went for a smaller set. So you can get one of those for 1,000, and instead of buying 2 speakers, 6 cables, you only need 4 as opposed to 6. You got your sub, your 2 speakers, you got a built-in mixer. So the StagePass 1K, if we have a look just as an example, no, it doesn't want to do it. It has multiple channels that you can do. It has bass and treble. It has like a 1 knob EQ, and it has effects, reverb, chorus, delay, and things like that. So you can get away with not having a mixer when you've got the StagePass 1K as a soloist, beginner DJ. However, for myself, I owned that one, and I felt that I didn't have complete control over it. So I actually went the Evolve 50M. So if we have a look at the Evolve Electro Voice. 3.5 grand. Evolve 50M is 3,300. So it's way more than this 2265 that we talked about earlier. I was lucky and I found a 50M sub for $500 just on its own. So I bought that and then I went to DJ City and just bought the top, the pole and the bag. So then I got a complete set for $1,600. So then that way it was $660 cheaper than my 2 speakers with the sub and a mixer. It was only 1 unit that I had to fit in my car, which means less stuff to transport and carry. It had a built-in mixer on the back as well as through the app, QuickSmart app, so I could mix from my drum kit rather than having to get up and go behind the sub. Excuse me. I didn't need 2 speakers to have stands, cables, transport in the car and so on. It's just 1 unit. It fits in the front seat of my car. It cost me $1,600, and it's been great. I haven't been able to find any deal better than that. So it's a bit harder. You can't just go, I want to be a DJ, and then go on Facebook and you find an amazing deal. You just have to have an idea of what speakers you're looking for. So myself as a beginner, my 3 top picks for Australia on the new market was JBL Eon 1 Mark II, the Yamaha Stage Pass 1K Mark II, and the Evolve 50M. All 3 of those had more than 2 channels, reverb and effects. JBL had a 10-inch sub, but the Yamaha and the EV had a 12. It had the wide dispersion. It had everything I needed to go solo without needing a mixer, because then the mixer added another cost, another thing to carry. So let's have a look if I got all my things. So you got your speakers here. We went the Yamaha DBR just as an example. It hits really good SPL. Sounds great. It had that Yamaha durability. Mixers, MG06X was the one I was always recommended in all the forums and Facebook groups. That was my example. The sub, TS12, the 12S, so the 12-inch sub or alto. I've actually found one of these on Facebook for $300 in good condition. If I was going around and getting a second sub for my setup, this is probably what I'd buy. So I'd have my Evolve 50M as like my main solo DJ system. And then if I have, let's say, a bigger room or more people, I would have this alto sub as a second sub. I'd get a sub pole, and then I'd put another top, which I haven't figured out. That's another story. But yeah, I just wanted to say, because I feel like in a lot of YouTube, which I watch, no one has talked about how good the secondhand market is. Especially since COVID, there's been so many people that have bought speakers, DJ controllers, subwoofers, and have discovered that they're not really into doing it in the long term or on the big scale. So there's a bunch of DJ controllers, speakers and subs that have had very light use. They're around about 5 years old, which is COVID times, but they're still current models, and they're going for less than half of their brand new price or retail price. So I think it's something to look into. You can get a really good deal. You just have to shop around, know what you're looking for, and then inspect it when you get there. Okay, look, I think that's enough for now. Have a good day.